While millions of people are joining clubs, desperately seeking community, and feeling genuine anxiety about being left out of group chats, there's a significant group of people who just don't feel that pull. And according to attachment neuroscience, their brains might process social connection completely differently. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every team-building event you've ever avoided. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Not needing to belong doesn't make you cold. It doesn't mean you're incapable of connection, and it definitely doesn't mean something's broken inside you. But there is something fascinating happening in your nervous system that's completely different from the majority of people who feel genuine distress when they're not part of a group. Let's start with why everyone else seems so desperate to belong. Humans evolved in small tribes where exclusion meant death. If your group kicked you out 50,000 years ago, you didn't survive the night. Your brain inherited that same panic response. When most people feel socially excluded, their anterior cingulate cortex lights up the same brain region that processes physical pain. Rejection literally hurts them. But here's what's wild. When they join a group, any group, their brain floods with oxytocin, the bonding hormone. They feel safe, complete, like they finally found their place. It's not weakness, it's just how their nervous system is calibrated. They're wired to need the collective to feel regulated. But here's where it gets interesting. People who don't feel the need to belong often have what psychologists call a lower social baseline. Most humans operate from what's called social baseline theory, the idea that the brain's default state assumes the presence of others. Their nervous system literally expects to be in a group. Your nervous system doesn't. Your baseline is individual, not collective. You're operating from a fundamentally different neurological starting point. And there's actual research on this. A study from UCLA found that people with secure attachment combined with high autonomy needs showed significantly less distress during social exclusion tasks. Translation: their brains don't interpret being alone as a threat. Where others feel danger, you feel neutral, maybe even preference. But wait, it gets weirder, because what happens in the brain of someone desperate to belong is legitimately concerning. You know that feeling when you check your phone hoping for a text? That anticipation? That's dopamine. People who need to belong get microdoses of that every time they're included. Every group laugh, every inside joke, every shared experience. It's literally addictive. Studies using brain imaging show that social acceptance activates the same reward centers as food when you're hungry. And here's the kicker. The uncertainty is what makes it so powerful. Will they like me? Will I be included? That unpredictability keeps the dopamine flowing. It's intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive reward schedule in psychology. The same principle that makes gambling so effective. People who don't need to belong, their dopamine systems simply aren't triggered by group membership. You're getting your dopamine elsewhere. Mastery, autonomy, creative flow, intellectual discovery, deep one-on-one connection. And this might actually be genetic. Research suggests variations in oxytocin receptor genes can predict how much someone craves group belonging versus independent operation. Think about that. Your complete indifference to whether you're invited to the party might literally be in your DNA. But there's another layer. People who need to belong engage in something psychologists call social identity formation. Their sense of self is constructed through group membership. They're a Yankees fan, a sorority sister, a company man. The group becomes part of their identity. When they say we, they mean it. Their psychological boundaries blur with the collective. People who don't need to belong maintain much clearer self-concept boundaries. You know exactly where you end and others begin. You don't need external group identity to know who you are. Your sense of self is more stable, less dependent on who's around you or what they think of you. Now, before the comment section explodes, I'm not saying one way is better. But I am saying there are legitimate neurological differences, and understanding them changes everything. Here's something that sounds contradictory. People who crave belonging often score higher on certain empathy measures. They're really good at reading group dynamics, sensing social temperature, knowing what the collective needs. So why don't you feel that same pull toward group harmony? It's about empathy allocation. Everyone has limited emotional bandwidth. You're just directing yours differently. A 2020 study found that people with high autonomy needs and low belonging needs scored significantly higher in one-on-one relational depth and creative output. You're not avoiding connection. You're choosing quality over quantity. You'd rather have 2 people who actually know you than 20 people you perform for. Your brain is seeking the same things: meaning, connection, significance. You're just finding it somewhere else. Deep conversation instead of group banter. Solo creative work instead of team projects. Individual purpose instead of shared mission. And let's be honest about something else. For some people, not needing to belong is actually protective. Maybe you were excluded as a kid. Maybe you learned that groups are unpredictable, sometimes cruel. Maybe you watched people lose themselves trying to fit in and decided that wasn't for you. Your autonomy might have a backstory, or maybe you just genuinely prefer your own company and never needed a trauma narrative to explain it. Both are completely valid. But here's the part that explains so much about why you and group-oriented people sometimes can't understand each other. It comes down to how you locate meaning. Group-oriented people find meaning through shared identity. The collective struggle, the team victory, the community cause. It's compelling because it's bigger than them. They're part of something. You find meaning through individual authenticity. Living according to your own values, pursuing your own purpose, building something that reflects your actual self, not a compromise with group consensus. You're not wrong, but neither are they. It's just 2 completely different approaches to the human need for significance. Here's what researchers call collective identity versus autonomous identity. Group people build their sense of self through membership and roles. You build yours through individual values and personal integrity. Neither is superior. They're just different strategies for answering the question, who am I? Psychologist Dechai, who studied self-determination theory, found that autonomy is one of 3 basic psychological needs. But people vary wildly in how much they need versus connection. For some, belonging is oxygen. For you, autonomy is. You're not missing out on some fundamental human experience. You just have a different psychological hierarchy. And here's what's really interesting. People who don't need to belong often report greater consistency between their private self and public self. They're not code switching between different groups. They're not managing multiple personas. There's something quietly powerful about that level of integration. So what does all this mean? If you don't feel the need to belong, you're not broken. You're not cold. You're not missing some crucial piece of your humanity. Your attachment system, your reward pathways, your identity formation process, they're all just calibrated differently. And that's perfectly okay. The next time someone asks why you're not more involved, or why you skip the group hangout, or why you seem so comfortable being on your own, remember this: you're not avoiding connection. You're just choosing it on your own terms. You're not rejecting belonging. You're just not dependent on it. And if this resonated with you, you're going to want to stay tuned, because next we're diving into why emotionally self-sufficient people have access to a type of freedom that terrifies most humans, and why that might be your greatest psychological advantage. That video is coming soon, and it's going to completely reframe what you thought self-sufficiency meant.